Some of you may remember the videos I did on Into the Spider-Verse before the film was released, and needless to say I had a lot of negative things to say about it. And it's been a long time coming, but I finally saw it on digital yesterday night. Now, to be honest, I don't think the idea of multiple Spider-Men all in one place is a good idea, and it's something that's been misused by comics and cartoons in a desperate bid for attention. And if I can think of any studio that makes desperate bids for attention, it's Sony. Need I remind you of the Emoji Movie? My issue with the Spider-Verse comic books is that, from my own impressions anyway, it just seems like nothing but splash pages of a bunch of differently drawn Spider-Men reaching into all different sorts of genres just saying, sorry I'm late, without really exploring truly what makes them different, or even accentuating the similarities that make them endearing. It just looks like an excuse to have an army of spider people all come on screen and fight against a common foe, and as an excuse to big that foe up when they plow through a series of Spider-Men that people might have forgotten about. I'm open to having creative different renditions of a certain character. I mean, look at Batman, he's had 1,000,001 different takes, surely. But the thing is, I admire the restraint that it takes to not involve them all in a massive crossover that feels utterly out of place. Now, I won't lie, I did read the Miles Morales all-new Spider-Man comics back in the day, and I did really enjoy the comic book Spider-Men, which featured Peter from the 616 universe and Miles of the Ultimate Universe coming together, because I enjoyed seeing the differences between the two universes, and seeing how certain events had affected certain versions of the character. My favourite moments having been the moment where Aunt May would see the Peter Parker of the 616 universe, and they'd finally meet. It's safe to say that great things can be done with a crossover between different versions of Spider-Man, but at the same time, when you have that many Spider-Men all in one story, you don't get that same opportunity to really explore the different worlds and their backgrounds in the same way, and backstory feels like more of an afterthought. As well as the amount of questioning as well. What the heck kind of a UK Spider-Man would refer to himself as Spider UK? He wouldn't be called that. He'd be called Spider-Man. Now, when I saw the early trailers of this film, I was wondering what the heck was going on, because they were trying to combine the origin story of Miles Morales in with the Spider-Verse story, and I thought that took a lot away from Miles Morales' journey to becoming Spider-Man if we had all these other Spideys there to help him. And as well as that, I was certainly not a fan of the Adam Sandler looking Peter Parker, as I considered that kind of a character sabotage in a way, in that it felt like it was a disservice to his character seeing him sort of this broken, this far gone, older, sort of like a redundant Spider-Man. Upon finally watching the film, I think my fears were put to bed, to be honest. I actually appreciated how the film started with the Chris Pine version of Spider-Man, who's the more refined, younger Spider-Man that we know and love, and then it segued into Miles' story, and this is very much a Miles Morales story. It's Miles first, Spider-Verse second, and I appreciated that because I thought it had a good sense of focus on Miles' character. As well as that though, Into the Spider-Verse also only utilizes 5 different Spider people, and that's actually a good thing because it means we can actually explore them a little better. The only ones that really get much exploration are Miles Morales, Peter B. Parker, and Gwen Stacy, and Spider-Noir, Penny Parker, and Spider-Ham. They don't get much exploration, but they actually do have a lot of great dialogue, and surprisingly some really good character arcs between the 3 of them. Miles Morales and Peter B. Parker are definitely at the heart of this story, though. It's sort of a juxtaposition to the kid that wants to be Spider-Man and the adult that doesn't really know how to be Spider-Man anymore, and he's lost everything. And I thought, actually, the whole sort of thing with Peter Parker being broke, down on his luck, divorced MJ, buried Aunt May, it is very much in line with the Peter Parker I know. I'm always saying that he's supposed to be a luckless guy, and to be fair, they got that down, and as an older Spider-Man, I actually really liked the way this was treated. It was actually admirable. It actually made a Spider-Man that's more relatable for me in a way. He's always broke, he doesn't always say the right thing, he's a little overweight too, just like me. Shut up, Liz, you wouldn't know overweight. Okay, to be fair, not so much overweight, but he's got a bit of a paunch. So that duo ended up being my favourite characters of the film, but my favourite of the 3 B Spider-Men, I guess, was definitely Spider-Man Noir. He was a fun one, really. He had some of the best dialogue. I loved the whole thing with the Rubik's Cube and everything. He was kind of more interpreted as an edgelord, more of a parody of what Spider-Man Noir really is. And to be fair, I think the 3 B Spider-Men were definitely more parody-based than they were actual characters, but I don't have an issue with that. Speaking of parody, like, this film is absolutely packed with fan service. When I saw the Spider-Man 3 Saturday Night Fever strut in the opening sequence, I was thrilled. Now, what's quite funny is, like, between Peter B. Parker of the 616 universe and Peter Parker of the Ultimate Universe, there's a lot of hints that both of them could be the Raimi Spider-Man, which I kind of enjoy. There's a lot of references in there to that, and that's something I was very worried about when I first saw the trailer that showed him, holding the train and punching the car that was thrown through the restaurant and everything. I was worried, oh god, they're not going to try and make this Raimi Spider-Man, are they? And to be fair, they haven't, but if it is, then I don't mind it so much. The film definitely had a really good emotional core to it. There's the scene in the Spider Cave where Peter B. Parker finds the photograph of Mary Jane, and there's the bit where he tries to reconcile with a different universe's Mary Jane at the Kingpin Gala. That was a really funny scene, but also really emotional. And Miles Morales certainly is confronting the obstacles of being Spider-Man kind of on his own, because the Spider people that he's kind of paired with are doing their best to be helpful, but he really has to find it within himself, and that's a great message for the film, is he has to take that leap of faith. I really like that. That's what I was worried about, was that delivering more Spider people into a Spider-Man origin story would just make it too easy for them. If anything, it makes it harder, because he sees kind of the comparisons and everything. All the different Spider people are very well-meaning, but it's interesting to see where they mean to be helpful, but are actually the opposite for Miles. As well as the conflict between Miles between his father as well as Uncle Aaron. I thought that was really, really well done, and actually delivered a lot more of an emotional punch than the Brian Michael Bendis comics did. As well as that, they really did deliver a very creative take on Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. It was interesting to see kind of the Ultimate Green Goblin on screen. I've never been a big fan of Ultimate Green Goblin, but I think design-wise he was interpreted really well. He kind of was like a mix of the 616 Green Goblin as well as the Ultimate version. I really like what they did with Dr. Octopus, actually. I mean, I wouldn't compare it to anything like the Spider-Man PS4 Doc Ock or the Spider-Man 2 Doc Ock, but like, she actually works really well and proves that gender bending certain villains does actually work really well in a lot of cases. Doesn't usually work for heroes, but for villains, yeah. Kingpin is an absolute unit. Look at the absolute size of this lad. He genuinely is a force to be reckoned with. He must have some kind of superpower to get this way. Either that or it is just the art style. I can imagine it is just down to the art style. I also really love what they did with Prowler. He was a bit different to how he was in the Ultimate comics. He didn't have quite such a hard edge that he does in the Ultimate series comic books. See, he didn't compromise Miles Morales like he did in the comics, and I actually really like that route. He's less of a straightforward villain, more just kind of a guy that's being kind of pushed into this kind of lifestyle and everything. But I thought it was done really well, and it made Miles Morales' attachment to him much more meaningful. As well as how Miles' father really dealt with the situation as well. It was really well done. I guess you can't really talk about a film like this without talking about its visuals and presentation, because unlike a lot of animated films recently, I guess with the exception of The Isle of Dogs, Into the Spider-Verse very much has its own visual identity. And that's not to say that films like Wreck-It Ralph or Incredibles 2 don't, they definitely do. But Into the Spider-Verse is probably the most radically different, with the exception of Isle of Dogs. When I first saw the trailer, I was like, that looks like a Telltale game, complete with the frame rate. But actually having watched the film and everything, like, I guess you can't blame a guy for being skeptical about a Sony Spider-Man film after the Amazing Spider-Man series. Okay, you can't blame me for looking at this with poop-tinted glasses, I guess you could say. But having watched the film now, I must say I really, really do like the visual style they went for. It screams comic bookish. At first, when I was at the opening titles, I was like, this is sensory overload. Everything is flashing and making loud noises, but like, I guess I'm old, but like, watching the film, I was like, I love the use of color, I love the use of the cell shading and the comic book dot sort of look, and I really appreciate the fact that they brought lots of different animation styles together by the third act when we're introduced to the other Spider people. My foot has pins and needles. I'm patting it, so I hope it goes away. There's also just visual moments where, like, I think one that really stood out for me was the conversation scene between Miles and Peter, where they're both just walking up and down the walls really casually. I thought that was really seriously creative stuff right there. And in terms of like the web swinging sequences, especially near the end, they really make so much use of Spider-Man and his surroundings and his abilities and everything like that. It has to be said, I feel like we haven't really made the most of Spider-Man's abilities and environments and circumstance in this way since the Sam Raimi trilogy, so it was so exciting to see it done in this way again. Every shot seems to have a really good sense of meaning, every single one in the film. Everything just really comes together to create such a nice experience visually. But it gets, it's also very much paired with the sound design and the music of this film as well. And this is a bit of a strange one because I think very much the score certainly fit the bill, and I think the songs certainly fit the film, but they're not the kind of songs that I would listen to outside of the film in isolation. I can't see myself listening to What's Up Danger because it really just doesn't appeal to a little whitey like me. Gosh, that's on PC, but... Okay, Sunflower, I like that. That is a chill song that's got a good little vibe to it, and I think that's a really good little theme for Miles and everything. I like the way it was used in the film as just that song he listens to at the beginning, the middle, and the end. I thought it was really well used. And the electronic instruments and everything, and the use of drums in some certain scenes was really impressive. Like, it's not like a let's say a Phase 1 and 2 Marvel Cinematic Universe film where the music just feels like an afterthought. It really feels like part of the experience. I do get the feeling that maybe the music will be what dates it, though, in the future. But for now, I'm just going to appreciate the film for what it is. Maybe in 10 years' time we'll look back on this and say, ugh, that's a bit weird. But I don't know. I think everything fit everything that was going on. I think that's what counts. I think if it's not distracting today, it probably won't be distracting in the future. Also, I can't talk about this film without mentioning the fact that they did recreate the moment from Spider-Man where Aunt May in the Ultimate Universe meets Peter Parker from the 616 universe. But it's even better here because Peter is a lot more similar in terms of his appearance to the Ultimate Peter. And the way Aunt May reacts to him, rather than yelling abuse at him and everything, she immediately knows. And I absolutely love this scene where she's like, "You look tired, Peter," and he's like, "I am tired," and everything. Like, it really accentuates how much this version of Peter has been through. And I appreciate that it wasn't immediately reset with this Peter Parker. Like, we see him go back to his own dimension, and I was kind of half expecting it to be like, okay, he's got a second chance as a time reset or something. No, he's legitimately still gonna be picking up the pieces of everything that's happened for a long time, and he's still lost Aunt May. I mean, I guess that's gonna happen with age, isn't it? I really love the way Aunt May was done as well. She's kind of like the Sean Pertwee Gotham Alfred equivalent to Aunt May, in that she's a really useful character that does a lot of like functional stuff for this story, and she's kind of very what's the word for badass that won't get me demonetized? Cool. Okay, yeah. Yeah, she's very cool. Too cool for school. Yeah, no, I like this version of Aunt May. I mean, Rosemary Harris for life, but like this one is still pretty cool. So honestly, I'm hard-pressed to find actual negative things to say about Into the Spider-Verse, really. It's a really lovingly made sort of love letter to Spider-Man with a lot of parody elements in there. And I guess from watching the film and seeing its message towards the end, I really did believe that there could just be more than one Spider-Man, and that maybe that Spider-Man could be me. Or not. And really, I admire their restraint in keeping to 5 Spider-People and focusing strictly on 3, and not bombarding us with millions of different Spider-Men all being killed off in dramatic ways. And I guess I miss Superior Spider-Man, but you can't exactly put him in a film like this. It wouldn't work. There's too much explaining to do there, and this whole premise is really stupid, to be honest, but I liked the Superior Spider-Man books, okay? So the whole thing was much more faithful to the Ultimate Comics All New Spider-Man series than I expected it to be, and I guess it takes some truly smart filmmakers to really subvert my expectation. For God's sake, that phrase again. To really, do that in the way that they did here. And I don't feel like a single opportunity was missed or squandered. I don't feel like a single thing was overdone. It was a very well balanced, very well made film. And I take back everything I said about it before seeing the film. I was wrong. Ranking it with other Spider-Man films is a tricky one for me. I'm seeing a lot of people saying it's the best one. I'm seeing a lot of people saying it's the best one since Spider-Man 2. Truth be told, I don't think I share in the view that Into the Spider-Verse invalidates other animated films that came out in its respective year, like Incredibles 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet. I thought those were still fantastic films, and I certainly wouldn't see it as a trade-off between them and Into the Spider-Verse. I'm proud that Into the Spider-Verse got the Oscar, but I think those two films are absolutely fantastic, and certainly not worse movies by any stretch. But Into the Spider-Verse, in terms of how it stacks up with other Spider-Man films, is a tricky one, because I don't truthfully view it as a Spider-Man film, if you get me. It's very much in the Spider-Man films, it's very much about, you know, a traditional Spider-Man story, generally, and this is by no stretch a traditional Spider-Man story, yet it is very, very Spider-Man. It's like Spider-People, I guess, is how I would classify it. Would I say it's a better film than Spider-Man 1? No. Would I say it's a better film than Spider-Man 2? No. Would I say it's a better film than Spider-Man 3? Yes. Would I say it's better than The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2? Obviously. Would I say it's better than Homecoming? No. I would say it's on par with all of those. And I think that's the interesting thing about Spider-Man recently, is that we are getting great new Spider-Man films that do not render previous ones in any way redundant. They only contribute to the character's greater sort of back catalogue. And I can actually really appreciate that. It's honestly a testament to how much love there is in the world for this character. I mean, look at it this way. We've got some of the greatest comic book stories of all time. We've got the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. We had great video games to tie in with those, mostly. We've had the MCU Spider-Man. We've had Spider-Man PS4, and now we have Into the Spider-Verse. There's a lot of love for this character being shown, because he's being given a lot of serious talent and seriously good work to go with it. So as a Spidey fan, frankly, I'm pleased as punch. I'm thrilled. And so what did you guys think of Into the Spider-Verse? Were you at all skeptical like I was when it was first announced? Comment below, let's discuss, and as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, please do click subscribe, and if you already have done that, well, as usual, it's great to see you. I hope you'll have a great day, and I'll catch you next time.